There's something bigger than earnings, which is much bigger as far as Nigeria is concerned, because nearly all successive Nigerian governments have made a series of efforts to redefine and reinvigorate the public sector. Those efforts were born out of the critical role that government institutions play in ensuring that transmission of fiscal and monetary policies are supported by the government agencies to deliver growth and development. Joining me to discuss this and other related materials, the private sector initiative director at the Lagos Business School, Dr. Franklin Ngwu. Good evening. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you making the time. Well, what are the key reforms? We all agree that the public sector needs reforms. We don't need to go through that. But what reforms do you think are urgently needed in that space?
I think that the first thing we are supposed to even understand is what do we mean by public sector reform? So it's more or less a deliberate intervention in the structure and processes of government organizations to deliver better in line with public interest and national interest. And how do you know if the public service is doing well? You know by looking at key governance indicators. So you just mentioned issue of sustainable development goals. A report by UN said that we are not even meeting any of the conditions that will help us to achieve any of the 17 development goals. And then if you look back again, you look at governance indicators like rule of law, government effectiveness, regulatory quality, voice and accountability, all these indicators, Nigeria, we are doing very badly. So it clearly shows that if the public service is the structure through which we execute government policies, and we are not achieving any of the development outcomes, it means that there's an urgent need for reform.
We've been through these reforms before, haven't we?
We have, but of course, you know, you have to keep making efforts. You have to keep changing. And this time around, we are thinking that we need to change the approach in terms of what we are trying to do.
That's exactly what I'm trying to. Are we doing the same thing, expecting different results?
Yeah, it depends on the way you look at it. So what we're trying to do in Lagos Business School is to start looking at issues like in terms of, for example, how do we have ethical service, accountability, and service delivery? How do we what is even the Nigerian vision? What is even the Nigerian value system? What is even our culture? So that at least when you come in, when you are recruited into the civil service, you know that you are coming there to serve in national interests. How do we even negotiate for the national interest? How do we even ensure that there is accountability? How do we even understand that you understand policy planning and execution? So these are key areas which we believe, and as you know, we need reform in all areas of Nigerian system. Financial services, monetary policies, fiscal policies, infrastructure, all these areas require significant reforms. So we wouldn't say let's focus on infrastructure or let's focus on monetary systems or let's focus on fiscal. We are looking at key principles, key areas that will apply across board, that will enable that once, whether you are in CBN or whether you are in SEC, whether you are in NAFDAC, whether you are in Federal Minister of Communication, whether you are in Foreign Affairs, that all of you are working towards a given and known vision.
Is there a template for this reform, or is it just as every new administration deemed fit to do it?
There is a template, but we are not, LBS is not leading this advocacy because of new government. We are leading it because we believe it is necessary and is required in Nigeria. It might be coincidental that we have a new government and LBS is coming. And LBS has actually been trying to engage the public sector for some years now. And given what we've achieved in the private sector, many stakeholders are asking us and saying, what are you doing about the public sector? So if we are focused on developing responsible leaders in Nigeria and Africa, we've done a lot in the private sector. So it is time for us also to engage with the public sector to do it. So it's what they call serendipity. It's a positive accident that there's a new government, and we're also launching what we call a public sector leadership program in Lagos Business School, which we believe we can get directors, permanent secretaries, all the relevant agencies to say, we must make Nigeria a better place. Nigeria must come to become the giant of Africa. Nigeria must not be looked at as poverty capital of the world. We have to reduce unemployment. We have to reduce inflation. We have to have better exchange rate. All these are outcomes that Nigeria are looking for.
So you're targeting certain level of public sector officials?
Yes, we are looking at least people that hold key positions of influence, particularly in execution. Because of course, if they appoint you as a minister now,
yes,
if you might stay 2 years and you're removed. So we are not really focusing on ministers. We are looking at
cabinet
permanent secretaries, directors, assistant directors, heads of government parastatals, as the case. And those are the people who really execute government policies.
You think they are the key to this missing link of economic development?
Yeah, we believe that they are the key. Because if you read the report from United Nations saying that some of the reasons why we've not been able to meet any of the conditions include poor training, poor skills on the civil service, corruption, and lack of coordination of government policies. And of course, economic outcome depends on the execution of economic policies. And who executes? It's not the ministers. It will not be the governors. It will be the civil servants serving under these people that have been there many years before even the ministers are appointed, many years before the governors are appointed. So we believe that these are the critical mass that we're supposed to be focusing on to say, we must change the narrative about Nigeria. We must change this unemployment, inflation, all these socioeconomic challenges that we are facing.
Are these conversations going to be focused, therefore, around the federal level only?
Not really.
Because everybody seems to look up to Abuja as where everything happens.
Yeah, Abuja is very important because they control, is the federal, but of course, we have three levels.
Yes.
So we have the federal government, we have the state government, we have the local government. So what we are trying to do in Lagos Business is to target across these three levels, federal, state, and local government. Because at the end of the day, development must go to the grassroots, which means that you need the local government, it must go to the state, subnationals. So we are looking at these directors, top civil servants in local government, in state, and in federal level. Because when all of them are properly syndicated and synergized, it means that we can start seeing the delivery of good governance in Nigeria.
So 2023 is coming to an end in the next 60 days or thereabouts. So
Yes.
what's been the public sector initiative at the LBS? How are you capping it?
How we are capping it is that on Thursday, 2nd of November, we're having a public sector dialogue where we've invited top Nigerians, including former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, Obaseki, and many other, Secretary of the Federal Government, and many other people in the government.
At federal,
both federal, state, and local government, and other stakeholders, even the private sector. So the private sector can come and tell the public sector leaders, this is what we are looking for, this is what we expect, this is what we want to partner with you. So what we are trying to do is to properly promote private-public partnership to deliver Nigeria, to make sure that Nigeria becomes the giant of Africa. And so this dialogue is to more or less relaunch what we've started to do. And then on the 13th of November, we now start our public sector leadership program.
It's going to be nice to sit down to listen to what you're going to teach the public sector.
You're highly
sit back
invited.
and listen to all this talk and see how this interaction will go between the public sector and private sector, and using the academia, which is the LBS, to bring a whole lot of things to the table. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best for you and your team at the Lagos Business School. Thank you so much.